Alright guys, I want to do a little video today about the Glock handgun. I know there's thousands upon thousands of Glock videos on YouTube. As a matter of fact, I probably have 100 on my channel as well. But I just want to make some points and go over some topics that I want to discuss about why the Glock handgun is such a great gun and what sets this gun apart from other guns that have tried to copycat the Glock. And there's also a lot more that ties into that, which I'll get into in a little bit. Okay, first here, what I've got here is a Glock 17 and little Glock 27. And just in case, if you guys want to know, this is the Gap Enterprises base plate. I love it. Man, does this make this gun really feel good to hold and shoot. Okay. Now the first thing you might notice on this one is this is an older Glock. It's the first style that started being shipped into this country. Remember, there is no Gen 1 baby Glocks because they weren't being made when the Gen 1s were out. It was at a later time period, approximately 10 years later from this guy, the G17, that these came into existence. And when they first started coming into this country and when they were first made, they had the finger bump there, but they had no checkering on the front strap. I really like it. And it also, for the import points through the ATF, it had the adjustable rear sight on there as well. I don't mind the adjustable rear sight. It can kind of help you out if you need it a little bit. Okay, first off, HK was the first gun company to come out with a polymer pistol, the VP70. I've owned one of those guns. The trigger pull was a monster. It literally felt like you almost wanted to use two fingers to pull the trigger. You know, one from each hand coming through both sides of the trigger guard. The first successful polymer gun, I would have to say, would be what you see on the table, the Glocks. Now, in 1986 is when these guys, right here, the 17, started shipping into the U.S. Now, I was just a kid. I was just a little kid at that time. I remember people complaining, and I knew some older guys that were police officers, and they just would literally, when they heard the name Glock, they would just shake their head. There was just so many different rumors about this gun. They said that it was plastic. It'll go through metal detectors at airports. And the media ran with that, and I can't believe people were that foolish to think that you could make a gun that fires a cartridge out of plastic. You know? Now, the bottom is polymer, aka, if you want to call it plastic, call it what you will, but the bottom is polymer. And there's also steel inserts in the bottom of this. But your barrel and slide always is going to be steel. Like I said, as well as many other parts on this gun. You know, your trigger bar's metal, your connector's metal, the frame inserts on the frame for the rails are metal. So there was a lot of misinformation being thrown around when these came into the United States. It didn't take long for this pistol to become mainstream. The ease of use, the simplicity. Policemen were dumping revolvers left and right at the chance to be able to carry these on duty at that time. You had the ability to hold so much more ammo, and you had a lighter weight gun. You had a better trigger than a double action revolver, because that's the way they would shoot their revolvers when you're a police officer. You train in double action mode. Now, this may not be 100% everywhere, but the standard rule is when police officers used 38s and 357 Magnums, they trained and they fired in double action pull. There was no you're gonna have time to cock the hammer. They didn't know if they'd have time to cock the hammer. They trained in double action pull. So when it came to this guy, it was so much easier for the police officers to get accurate shots, to keep on target. Like I said, hold so much more ammunition. The simplicity and ease of use. No roll pens in this. HK, SIG, almost all the other polymer handguns that I can name, the XD, which I'll get into in a little bit, the M&P, SIG, HK, they all have roll pins. I can literally teach a 12-year-old child, I can teach a 12-year-old girl how to detail strip this whole gun and put the entire thing back together in an hour. I am confident that I could do that. And I could do it in an hour if I was sitting there with the person, and at 12 years of age, I could have them strip this gun down, take every single piece out, and put it back together. So we're talking about, too, technology of 1986. Nothing from 1986 until 2012 has been able to produce a simpler, more easy to strip, easy to handle, easy to maintain weapon than what you see on that table from 1986, and that's saying something. Now, the market for Glock is so big that all the major gun companies try to jump on the bandwagon. First, you had the XD. Now, let me give you a little history on the XD, and I'm not bashing the XD, but I'm just not a fan of the XD because on the XDs, you have a real chunky, fat frame up above the trigger guard right here, and you have a real chunky, fat slide. Now, what happens is the bore axis of that gun is very high, and it starts to get to the point where you're going to shoot that gun, and when you shoot it, you're going to be a little bit more topsy-turvy, not a ton, than you would with something that's more slimline. And the HKP7 would be even more slimline than this Glock that I'm holding right here. So the Glock isn't the lowest bore axis, but it by any means is not the highest. The Smith & Wesson M&P, I give a 10 plus for their bore axis. I give them, out of a 10, I give them a 10 plus. They did a good job. I like the slides on the M&P. I think Smith did a great job with the slide on that M&P, and I truly think that if it were not for the Glock, that the Smith & Wesson M&P would be the dominant pistol in the market today. Right now, about 70% of law enforcement and government in the United States has a Glock of some caliber on their side, whatever the department issues. Normally it's a 40 cal. Now let me get back to the XD. The XD, which is made in Croatia, I have no problem with the gun coming from out of the country. This comes from Austria to Georgia. But the XD first came out, and it was called the HS-2000. Now, Springfield neither designed nor had a design in this gun. They bought the rights to the gun, and they added about $250 to the price tag. It stamped their name on it and started selling it for roughly $200 to $250 more for the same gun than what it was when it was named the HS-2000. So, quite a few years later, these other gun companies, to compete, they had to come out with a gun that was similar to the Glock because they just couldn't compete. They didn't have guns in the market that were able to compete with the sales that Glock has in this country. Some people say that they don't like the grip angle of the Glock. That baffles me, because when I hold this gun right here, it fits me like a glove. I couldn't ask for anything better. From the palm of my hand to the web of my thumb, it feels like I just took a piece of clay and molded it in my hand when I hold this gun. So I don't understand where people get the idea of saying that the grip angle is wrong on the Glock. I have never had a problem with it. In fact, some people complain about the grip on the Glock being too big. I don't know if these people just have tiny hands or what the deal is, but it's not unusual for me to take a G21 or a G17 and put this Hogue rubber grip on there that makes it even fatter. I like these Hogue rubber grips. It gives me traction, and it swells in the palm, and it makes the gun fit me a little bit better. But it does add width to the grip and length as far as front to back on the grip of the gun. But I've got one of these on a G21, and I rock it like that. So, with anything, people, you can have the best product, the best thing in the world. There's always going to be some guys that want to go against the grain and bash it. For what reason, we don't know. I feel that some guys, it's the old internet thing, but we'll say it's more of a real life thing. Some of these people, you have the older guys that are maybe ex-military, and they shot the 1911s, which back then were made differently than the way they're made now. So the 1911s were more reliable. I'm not going to get into that whole debate right now. But the 1911s of the world, when they were used in World War, they were more reliable than what they are now. The manufacturing process was different. Those guys are diehard, dead set. When they seen this come into the country, they were immediately against it. Some of them. I'm not going to I'm not here to lump people and throw them into one group, because that's not right. But a lot of these older guys that were trained on the 1911, they seen this thing come in and they said, "Oh no, that's plastic. That ain't for me." They didn't, they weren't used to it. They didn't train on it. They said, "I don't like it." And a lot of that follows through to their children. A lot of times the children grow up and the father may say, "I can't stand the Glock." Well, sometimes the son follows suit and says, "You know what? I don't like that gun either." Somebody may say, "Why?" And they say, "I just don't like it." And they repeat things that were told to them by their dad or their grandfather about the gun. "Well, it's plastic and this and that." Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you what. This polymer is a very durable material, and it have a little flex to it. And I'm telling you what, there's a Glock out there that's got over 100,000 rounds on one pistol, with just minor parts being changed here and there. And that is verified and documented. A Glock with over 100,000 rounds in it. So there's not going to be a problem with your polymer frame. Another thing, let's get into the old Kabooms. Okay, here's the deal. If 80% of the cars in the United States on the road were Volvo, and there was little quirks that Volvos sometimes had, it would be much more prevalent than if there were 10% of Volvos on the road in the United States. Same thing with this. There is hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Glocks in the U.S. Number one, we don't know when these Kabooms happen. Were these guys shooting reloads? Did they double charge a case? The percentage of Kabooms divided by the number of law enforcement, government, and civilians handling Glocks is so minuscule that it would blow your mind. I have never worried about a Kaboom and a Glock. In fact, I strongly feel that Glock would 100% take care of you. It's never crossed my mind when I went out shooting, am I going to have a Kaboom? Have they happened? Yes. But then again, we get back to the point of, I don't know, I can't inspect the rounds the guy was shooting. You can't just trust somebody to tell you exactly what they were shooting unless you were there and you know. The chamber is a little bit looser than other guns, but that aids with reliability in the Glock. If the Kaboom thing were a problem, you would hear about it weekly. There's just too many guys in the United States and too many law enforcement officers and every other kind of people shooting Glocks all the time. One of the most common guns on the market is a Glock. So we can blow the Kaboom thing out of the water and not have to deal with that. Another awesome thing about the good old Glock is the ability to get these 33 round magazines for the 9mm, and now you can get, I believe it's 22 rounders for the 40 cal. Now, if you go to like an M&P or I believe an XD, they have the small models that will accept the full-size models mags. Okay, well, Glock with a 33 rounder is much more extended than that. So it gives you more capability with ammunition, a lot more fun at the range, and other guns just aren't doing extended beyond what the pistol can accept as a magazine in the frame. So that's another thing I love about the Glock. Streamlined. This here has an extended slide stop lever. I didn't put that on there. I don't prefer those. Okay, I basically, when you finish a magazine in a Glock, the way I do it is you would reinsert a full magazine like this, and if they're around in there, you would come over the top, take it back, and if there were a round in this magazine, it would have fell forward. That's the way I shoot. I don't use this little lever here. Some guys do, but that's not the way that most places are training for combat and other shooting. Mainly the widespread training is you go over the top and rack the gun. So I don't need extended slide catches. That's what this is. It's a slide stop, not a slide release. Look in the manual. Another thing, I don't use extended magazine releases. I don't have anything against either of these two items, though. I mean, if that's what you want, then that's fine. I'm just talking about me personally. Now, there is an issue of carrying this gun, especially if you're right-handed. Just the way the gun's in the holster, because it's against your body tight right here. You carry an extended magazine release on a Glock, there's a good chance that you can activate it when you're sitting down or moving around and you have the holster on, because it just sticks out a little too far. It doesn't take much to release that magazine. So I just go with the standard. I don't think it's going to save me or give me any more time, save me any amount of time that's going to be impressive if this thing's in just a little eighth of an inch further than sticking out here where the holster can easily activate it. It's just not worth it to me. And I'm not going to get into it. I've got into it before, but police officers in this area, at least one of them I know, had a problem with that, with the extended mag release and his holster. But I'm not going to go into that any further. Another thing I just wanted to kind of touch on is I feel there's no need for a grip safety on a polymer gun like the XD has. I can't understand for the life of me why XD would put a grip safety on the back of a polymer gun. I'm just clueless to that point. I don't think it's needed. And I know of guys that put on a Hogue grip and they put it up over the grip safety so it's always held in, so it's always activated. You know, they have a trigger safety. I don't understand why you would need a grip safety on a gun. It's just not needed. I don't need all kinds of chamber indicators. I don't need holes cut up here in the top of the slide. I don't need little protrusions that stick up like this when there's a round loaded. I don't need little things poking out of the back when the striker's cocked. Look, this is simple point and click, simplicity in design, no complications. You chamber a round, you chamber the round. Be smart enough to know what condition your gun is in. And yes, the extractor does protrude out a little more when the round is chambered. That's all I need. I don't need all kinds of little gimmicks and holes cut in slides and little plungers back here that stick out. I don't need all that. I know what condition my gun is in when I have it. Do you? Because you should. If you're going to carry it, you should know what condition that gun is in, regardless of all the little holes and witness holes and different things to look for and know if your gun's chambered. I just don't think it's needed. It's a gimmicky thing to add to a gun and say, oh, look, it has this. Oh, look, it has this. But does it really, in real life, really do anything more? No. Because if I have a gun on my side, I can look across the street and know if it's loaded or not. I don't have to look in the barrel. I don't have to look at the top of the slide and look through a hole. I'm smart enough to know when my gun's loaded and when it ain't. If imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, as they say, then Glock has it all day, because everybody and their brother that's made a gun has tried to produce something that can replicate a Glock, and I still don't think anybody's got it whipped. Just my opinion. Not bashing any of these other gun companies, guys, so don't think that if you like your XD or you like your M&P, that I'm saying that it can't outperform. Those guns can be as accurate as you need them to be when you train with them, and I'm sure they're reliable. The only difference is with the Glock, it's been around long enough that it's proven itself. That's the only thing that you can't say for these other polymer handguns that's come out here in the recent, is that they haven't been around long enough to know if there is any major quirks, anything that's going to happen. Do I think you're going to have a problem with those guns? No, I don't. I think that, that they're okay, but the fact of the matter is, since 1986, these guns have been here, being used. So we know by that how these guns do and how they work and how they run, and we know that they're reliable guns. And like I said before, I believe that if it were not for the Glock, it is my gut feeling that the Smith & Wesson M&P would be the gun that dominated the market right now. I'm a fan of the Smith & Wesson M&P. I think Smith did an excellent job on how they did their slides. As a matter of fact, I was kind of interested in looking at a shield when I can find one locally. Never know. Might have to pick up one of those. There is a report. I can probably link you to it. I'll have to refind it. But Smith & Wesson sent a gun to be tested, and it was tested by several different people, and it was kind of shipped around, and it didn't fail until 62,000 rounds is when the M&P failed. It was a full-size 9, and there's pictures up of what happened. Basically, the steel split on the inner part of the slide, and they have detailed photos. So it did last 62,000 rounds, I believe, or 63, one of those. So it was torture tested quite well, and like I said, this is documented, and it's from Smith & Wesson themselves. This isn't like some guy saying he went out into his backyard and did it. But I do know for a fact that there are Glocks out there that have over 100K on them, and that's documented as well. So I just want to tell you guys that don't forget about this guy. Everybody keeps coming up with a new gimmick, new marketing strategy, new little things on the gun. Any little accessories you add to a gun, in my mind, is never going to make it better than simplicity. So you can add all the little gimmicky features you want and different little things to the exterior and the appearance, but it's not going to beat simplicity. When you need this gun, or it's a duty gun, and you have to pull it, all you want to do is be able to pull it and pull that trigger and have everything slimline and simplistic. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. It's my little discussion on Glocks. Some people told me they missed my old Glock style videos, so here you go. This one's for you. Till next time, guys. This is H4T, and I am out of there.